September 2023 meeting of the York City Zoning Hearing Board. We're only 3 minutes late, which is, for me, right on time. I thought the room might fill up with chicken lovers, or I thought Joe Musso would be here, because he lives just down, right? Anyway, I'm not going to give you the usual pep talk. I think some of you have been to this type of thing before, but you understand that you probably met with the Planning Commission and they discussed what you wanted to do. Although I didn't get the minutes from the Planning Commission. Did you get their results?
I got them this morning.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, online.
Monty emailed them to me.
Okay, right. So, anyway, the Planning Commission recommends to us, and we do value their recommendation. We also get the staff recommendation from Monty, and we value that. And then we make up, like my mother used to tell my father, you talk and I'll listen and then I'll make up my mind. And that's the way we do it. Let me just introduce who we are. From your left, Sina Jenkins, Adam Nugent, Nick Holman. Elspeth Bupp is our vice chair, and I'm Franklin Williams, chair of the board. Our solicitor is Andrew Harold, and our stenographer is Karen Brown. The way we do things, we didn't have a meeting last month, and my memory isn't what it used to be. Let me see if I can remember how we do this. When your case is called, Andy will call your case and introduce it, and we'll ask you to come to the podium and describe. I know you filled out an application, probably online, and you were asked some questions and you answered them. But I didn't see that. I mean, I didn't get a copy of that, so I will be interested in your start-off presentation. Just don't get too technical. I'm not an engineer or an architect. I never even played one on TV. But I'll do my best to keep up with you. We may interrupt if something is said that somebody doesn't quite understand, but we try not to do that. We try to let you finish your presentation, and we may ask questions. I know that if I don't ask if anyone in the audience has any questions, Adam or Nick will get on my case about it, but I don't see anybody. Somebody may come in. We'll ask if anyone has any comments or questions, and we'll probably ask you if you want to sum up your presentation, and then we'll close the case and we'll discuss it. We don't tend to take quite as long with that as we used to, I think because we do a little bit of discussion as we go. There's not too many surprises by the end. And then we'll make our decision about whatever it is you're asking for. I think it's fairly simple. I think both cases are only requesting one variance, so it's not terribly complicated. Sometimes we have a special exception and 4 or 5 variance requests. I would ask you, when you come up to the podium, and please don't speak from anywhere else, and please, in spite of the microphone, make sure the microphone is on, because we are being recorded, I believe, as we speak. and we may become YouTube stars. I doubt it. For one thing, I haven't been able to figure out how to pull us up on YouTube. So, and if I couldn't, I don't know about John Q. Public. But just in case anybody wants to, please speak into a microphone and speak, you know, don't swallow the microphone, but don't stand 2 or 3 feet away from it either. If you have cell phones, please turn them to vibrate or turn them off. But if you think you might get an emergency call or something, you can turn it to vibrate. What am I forgetting?
Swearing everybody in.
Swearing in.
Yep.
Yep, I didn't forget it, I just didn't do it yet.
Very good.
Would all 3 of you please raise your right hand? Stand, raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give here this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Let the record reflect that all present were duly sworn. Would you introduce the case number, I think, 35?
35. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first case is case number 35-2023-Z-V. The applicant and owner of the subject property is David Peffley of 700 Anginus Street, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. The subject property is located at 25 North Duke Street, which address is located in the Central Business District of the City of York. Applicant seeks a variance to permit the applicant to convert a previously existing multi-unit office complex to a 16-unit multifamily dwelling. A multifamily dwelling conversion from a different use is a use permitted by right in the CBD zone. However, the proposed use exceeds the density requirements contained in section 13.04.01-1.02.002 Bravo 4 of the City of York zoning ordinance. The application was reviewed by the planning staff of the City of York. The planning staff recommends approval of the requested variance. The case was heard by the City of York Planning Commission on July 10th, 2023, by way of unanimous, they just heard that case on September 11th, 2023. By way of unanimous vote, the Planning Commission recommended approval of the requested variance. The record before the board this evening consists of the application itself, an aerial photo of the subject property, a standard agreement for sale of commercial real estate, 6 pages of photos of the subject property, and 4 pages of hand-drawn floor plans.
Thank you. Would you give your name and address, please, for the record?
My name is Franklin Hernandez, address 700 Agin East, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, 17110.
And just expand a little bit on what our solicitor told us about your application. You're applying for relief from a density, number of units on the amount of space you have, and you'd like more than the ordinance allows.
Before you go there, could you state how your relationship is with the owner?
I'm one of the owners of DNF Realty, yes.
It's, so DNF is, I figured that out. So it's David and Franklin,
Yes.
correct? Yep.
Yes.
Sorry,
DNF Real Estate, yep.
Yeah. And on the application, when we submitted it, it had his name on there, and I didn't realize it, but I was actually the one that submitted it. Instead of putting my name on it, it kept David Peffley, and it was submitted, so I couldn't go back and change it. So that's why,
no problem.
yeah.
Sorry, Franklin.
That's okay, that was a well advised question. So, Mr. Hernandez,
Yes.
tell us about tell us about what you'd like to do with this building.
Okay. We're here proposing to turn an office building located at 25 North Duke Street into a 16-unit apartment. This property has 3 floors and a basement with a total square footage of 14,000. The basement is approximately 10 feet high and has egress windows, an elevator, and 2 sets of stairs. We are planning to create 8 two-bedroom apartments and 8 one-bedroom apartment. The exterior of the property will stay intact. No changes will be made to the historical look. This property is currently approved for 5 or 6 apartment for the adding the acreage, and we would like to turn it into 16 apartment. This property is currently paying $17,000 in taxes every year, plus insurance and everything. It is in the current state that the property is with renting offices out. It's not profitable to even think of buying it. So we want to turn it into apartments and make it profitable to be able to pay taxes, insurance, mortgage, and et cetera.
And as I recall from the record, you don't plan any changes, any major changes at least on the outside of the building?
We're expecting not any changes at all on the outside. The windows are egress. They're more than enough for the meets. They don't need to be changed. So other than that, nothing else needs to be changed. If we don't need to meet egress, we do need to meet it, but it's already there. So we're gonna work with what we have without having to change the exterior look of the property.
Are there any, from the 4th or 3rd floor, do you have to put in a, what do you call it, fire escape? Do you,
It has 2 ways to get out of the property.
and that's all?
Yeah,
Okay. The stairs and the elevator?
yeah. There's 2 stairs and an elevator. They go straight out. They both go straight out. And it goes all the way down to the basement.
Are there separate meters already in?
For electric, I believe there's around 6 meters there already. 6 electric meters, 1 water meter, and there's just like a semi fire extinguisher already in the building. So it would just need to be bigger than what it is now, because it only covers I believe 2 floors. Doesn't go all the way to the 3rd floor.
Are you planning to separate the gas? Are you going to heat it with natural gas? And if so, are you planning to separate into 16 separate natural gas meters?
Yes, I am. Yes, forced air,
So you would, so natural gas,
natural gas, yes.
where, are you aware of Columbia Gas's, where they put their meters?
Where will they put it?
If you're gonna break it into 16 separate gas meters, do you know where the gas meters?
They are currently on Clark on the alleyway. That's where I believe there's probably 5 or 6 meters already there. So it won't actually be on the front of the property.
What experience does your company have with similar projects?
We probably own over 300 properties all over Harrisburg and York. We own warehouses all over Harrisburg, Carlisle, 15, 20, 30, 40,000 square foot buildings,
And your latest experience in renovating a historic building?
Historical building?
Yeah.
I don't really have a lot of experience on renovating historical buildings, but like I said before, we're not actually changing anything on the outside of the property. I know you guys take that pretty big on keeping, the property, maintaining the historical of it. So we're not planning on changing anything on the outside, and no major changes.
Can you just sort of go over your plans for the inside? What are these apartments going to look like, feel like? What kind of clientele do you look to bring in? What's your thought on that idea of the rent you're looking to be able to offset your costs with.
Okay, so we're planning to do like 4 apartments around the 2-bedroom, which is, I believe you guys require a minimum of 750 square foot for 2-bedroom, and I believe is 500 for 1-bedroom. For the 2-bedroom, we're planning on charging at least like 1,200, and for the 1-bedroom, around $900. And for the clientele that we're,
I don't want to I want to just avoid the clientele type of question, just to make sure that we're not running afoul of any Fair Housing Act type questions, things like that. So I'd like to kind of avoid that if we
Yeah, I
could.
guess I'm asking where's your what's your market? And if you're in the 1,200 to 900 price range, we know your market.
what do you mean? I don't understand your question.
Well, you answered the question, yeah. It's $1,200 and $900.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And you,
As far as your renovation, for the inside, it would just be mostly adding walls in order to get your bedrooms and things like that?
Exactly, because it has it already has an existing hallway, and we want to keep even the interior of the property the best we can, because it's a really nice building, really nice. It has like a lot of wood, and really expensive, and since it's already offices all around, we're going to try to keep as most walls as we can, to save on costs and to keep the interior of the building as it is, because it's a really nice building. I wish it would work as an office and nothing will need to be changed, but fortunately, the owner has owned it for a couple of years, and I spoke to him, and he has to come out of pocket to be able to pay the mortgage, and eventually, if nothing gets done with the building, it might even go for tax sale eventually, because unless one company comes in and takes the whole building, for renting out offices, like, I think he's renting out like 16 offices right now, and maybe he has like 5 or 6 rented for like $600, $700, $800. That's not, yeah.
So you haven't bought the place yet, this is all,
I haven't what?
you have not purchased the building?
We have it on the contract. If this gets approved, we'll own it by Monday.
Okay. Yeah, I've been in the building, and it's pretty
Yeah.
nice inside.
It's a really nice building.
Your foyer going in the front there with all the marble, there's a picture of it in here, I remember that.
Yeah, and there's a picture there of the basement too, and you can see even the basement has egress windows, which, like, the basement is like the floor level is probably like right here. You won't even feel like you're even in the basement. Let me see if I find a picture here. This picture here is where the basement is.
now, my understanding is that under the ordinance at least in the central business district, you said it was approved for, and actually, I think to be technically correct, we'd say that it's by right. You would be allowed without anything from us, 5.
Yeah.
I think 5
5 or 6.
apartments.
Yeah.
And I think you can understand that one reaction I had was that there are quite a few numbers between 5 and 16. I mean, and I understand that you'd like more rent coming in than what you could probably get from 5 apartments to pay the bills and give you a little return on your investment. But, and I understand that the zoning ordinance doesn't have any requirement for parking, but does the building have any off-street parking?
No, it does not.
It doesn't.
But the parking lot, the city parking lot is around the corner, and if we have to put in on our lease, you know, to provide at least one parking space, you know, if it affects in any way, shape, or form, I don't think we'll have a problem with that.
Has your company thought of, having multi-use building, i.e., have offices on the first floor, basement, and then have apartments second and third floor, and try to get more rent? I mean, I kind of agree with our chairman here that there's a big difference between 6 and 16, and I hear what you're saying. Another option is to make more luxurious apartments that you're renting out for $2,000 or something to that effect. It just seems like a lot of small little apartments shoved in that building, and I've been in that building, like I said. So I'm just not, 16 is a lot, and if there was another way of figuring out how to get your taxes and your insurance and everything else paid for, and make a profit for the company, it just seems like there may be another way. 16 just seems high, and that's a big, it's a big number for this council, this board to approve over 6. So I'm just voicing that right now.
As far as like the offices and stuff, like even we thought about keeping like even the first floor as an office or as an office. There's a building right beside us that's probably been on the market for who knows how many months, maybe a year. They probably have a couple of offices down there, and they're not being rented.
And I know for a fact that the building that they just made into apartments 2 years ago, and it had like H&R Block on the first floor, it's right down the street from it.
That's the one I'm talking about.
They're having trouble, H&R Block's moved out, there's nobody in there right now. But if you look at the size of their offices they made in there, they did themselves an injustice by just making small little rooms
Yeah.
nobody wants. So that's part of their problem. I mean, this building was a huge, as you know, it was an office building, and there's some pretty nice offices in there.
Mm-hmm.
That's all said.
I have a question about, so the size of the apartments,
Mm-hmm.
right, and the utilities.
Mm-hmm.
So presumably they will all have hot water.
Yes.
So where will they each have an individual, are you planning for 16 individual hot water heaters?
Either inside the apartment or, cause there's a upstairs, there's actually like there's the third floor, and there's a big crawl space up there too, where all the furnace and that's where they're at right now. There's probably like, you can stand up there between the third floor and the roof. So there's plenty of room for furnaces and water heaters. I'm not saying that's where we're gonna put them,
Right?
but that can be an option.
Okay, because that, if it's in the apartment, right, that would, I don't know if that would reduce the size of the apartment depending on the type of water heater you put in there. And if they
Well,
have pretty cool ones in Europe that are small and just heat up
Place
when you
right
need them,
next
but
to where it's at, they put all individual ones in each room.
in
and
each
it's
Yeah.
closet
it's in
or
a kitchen
something.
closet.
So I don't know if the, you know, if that, how much that shrinks availability. I don't, you do have closets on your map, so that's good, but,
Yeah, it's probably like
yeah.
10 square foot?
And the heat, you said
Force area, furnaces,
hot air,
yes.
and so each person, each apartment in theory would have their own
Force air furnace,
forced air furnace.
yes.
And that would in theory also be 10 square feet or less beside the water heater.
Yeah.
And you've made apartments like this before?
We have not this amount, but we
Not-
have, yes.
Because you said you have like 300 properties
All over the place.
all over,
yes.
so, and the number of residential versus commercial, you've got residential, maybe you didn't have to renovate them, is that it?
We renovate most of our properties. We buy them from the auctions, so they're 99% of the time they're condemned,
Okay.
and we bring them back. Yeah, we do a lot of properties. I can even show you some pictures on my phone.
Okay.
Pretty wild.
Is-
We rebuild them from like framed everything, you know, electrical, plumbing, everything.
You have your own big team, or do you have
Yes.
to subcontract out?
No, we have a crew. Yeah.
Would a 16-unit apartment be the biggest number of apartments, units that you have?
No, we have probably like 80 room. We have a big rooming house with probably like maybe like 40 to 50 rooms in it. It's probably like, I would say it's probably like 60, 70,000 square foot in Dauphin County. So it's, you know, that won't be.
Has your company had any code violations on the properties that you own?
It happens. You know, we can't keep track of like trash and, you know, of tenants. Like, you know, I can't go house by house making sure they take the trash on time and doing this and, you know, because unfortunately it comes back to us. If the tenant takes your trash out or if they put a couch on the front, it comes back to the owner, not the tenant. So owning so many properties, we can't just drive around the city just making sure the tenants are, you know, we keep up on keeping the building in shape and stuff like that, you know, and if it, you know, since we buy so many condemned properties, you know, we have had issue where we need to board them up and stuff like that, the neighbors and stuff like that, but other than that, you know,
You do understand it's our obligation to make sure that no places around town have trash laying outside.
and I understand that. I'm just saying that I'm just explaining what violation we may have because, you know, but I'm not arguing what your guys' job is, you know what I mean? Because I understand that.
Yeah, yeah.
Who
Yeah.
monitors your properties since you have so many of them?
We have a crew of like 20 guys. Yeah. And we have an office over at 700 Agonies with secretaries. You know, tenants call with complaints and city and, yes.
And that's in Harrisburg?
Yes. I live here. I live in Dover.
Oh,
Yeah.
You live in Dover?
Yes.
Oh.
I drive to Harrisburg every day. I like it down here, though.
Do you own other properties in York City?
Yeah, we probably own like 30 to 50 properties. We own a lot of convenience store, the buildings.
I want to revisit, there was a little bit of discussion about, I guess it started when you were asked if you have any code violations or something like that. And you know, in my view, and I've been on your side of the table, I mean, there are responsibilities that are clearly on the owner,
Yes.
on the landlord. And then there are responsibilities that are on the tenant. And if, you know, if a landlord wants to carry the tenant's trash out to make sure it's done right, good luck. But they're probably going to get very tired of doing that. And so then your responsibility as the landlord is to make sure that you have tenants who are pretty much in compliance. And that can be a challenge, but it's one that you are willingly taking on.
Yes.
I think I saw the picture with, you know, I wondered at one point, in some buildings, the basement is where the utilities are and perhaps storage compartments for each apartment, but it looks like, and I could see from the outside that it's like the basement is, it's sort of like level 1/2, and then the first floor is like actually floor 1.5. I mean, it starts, and there's a picture that looks like it, the basement is not just rough and raw and nothing much done to it, so you could take it from scratch and do utilities down there and storage spaces and things like that. I see that.
At one point, they were doing like events, I think, down there. They had a space for it. I'm not sure. I think at one point.
You
Is
need
it-
to
right now, like,
speak
all
up
the-
just a little bit, please.
I'm saying like at one point, I think they were renting out for like events down there. Because
Oh.
it's finished and most of the utilities are on every floor. Like they're not, like the utilities aren't in the basement right now.
Is there central air in here?
Yeah, on every floor.
Okay.
Mhm.
Units are up on the roof?
There's 2 of them on the roof and the rest, the 3rd floor has it on the roof. And the 2nd floor and 3rd floor and basement, it's on every floor, on each floor.
Do you have your own engineer on staff?
Yeah, I can hire one that we work with to work on this project, that we usually use, yeah.
Do you usually contract out
Yes.
your engineer? I'm not saying it's good or bad, I was.
No, I thought
curious.
if-
You said you used to have a pretty decent, you have a crew and.
Yeah.
Staff, so I
Yeah.
didn't know if that included the whole.
No, I don't have,
construction.
I don't have an engineer working for us, but we have 2 guys that, they're pretty good.
Have they looked at this building yet?
Not yet. I spoke to them about it, the square footage, I showed them picture, but they haven't been in the property themselves. And the other thing about utilities, these ceilings, they're really high. So even like if we do a drop ceiling for furnaces and stuff like that, where we can run all the duct and stuff and not have to take square footage from each apartment, it's also possible because they're like 12, 14 feet high ceilings.
Had you thought about, are you planning to provide washers and dryers in each apartment? A central one for the residents anywhere on property,
Probably not.
so no laundry?
Probably not laundry. I just worry, like even on my other properties, we had experience where somebody takes the hose out, turn the washer on, and we have water all the way down to the basement, and then they leave, and when they come back, that's why I don't like to put washer and dryers inside apartments, because of that reason.
Have you researched, like, where there would be a close laundromat for the residents who may or may not have cars because?
Yeah, there's
they
one
may
on
not-
Queen and what is it? Queen and Princess? Yeah, Queen and Princess, and there's a couple of them. Yeah, they're not far away at all. They're probably like 5 blocks away.
But they'll have to, yeah.
Yeah,
walk
they're
or
in
drive.
it's walking distance.
I love the idea of more apartments. Apparently, the county has a shortage of apartments. So the question is this the right number for the right buildings? Probably the building would be well suited to having apartments, but I guess the question is 16 the right number?
I have 2 concerns, and one is usually if we're looking at a building like this, which is a pretty nice historic building, we tend to have some pretty detailed drawings on the plans that are going to too. And, with these, you know, we just have some hand-drawn stuff. For me, I need to see more than this. And the second issue is, you know, with violations of code, the idea of, you know, of this becoming a building that trash is outside and landlord's like, well, we can't do a lot about it. I'm just, you know, that doesn't sit quite right with me.
I'm kind of with you in that this is diagonal from our new downtown Hotel Yorktown, which is sort of to be like the gem and the big attraction into the city for a new business, and the idea that it will draw more people to downtown, and so we want to make sure that nothing becomes an eyesore
So when,
anywhere, but, you know, as
What-
it is so close, a block from,
so when I applied for
yeah.
the variance, I was told that, I asked if I need to get professional drawings. And I was told I didn't have to. So that's why, because I would have called my engineer and we would have had my architect, and we would have had some drawings. I wouldn't have had a problem with that. But the thing is, this, that's probably like a $20,000 drawing,
Agreed.
you know, for something that I'm taking a chance on that I don't even own right now. But I went over with him, the square footage and everything, and I tried to draw it up as best as I can. Since I was told that, huh?
They're good drawings.
Thank
The
you.
drawings are good. It's just, you know, to take a building like this and to turn it into apartments, I need to see a better picture in my mind of what this thing's gonna look like before we go ahead and say, here's your permit to do this for $600.
Why could you not have a lesser number of apartments in that building? What would prevent you from that?
Profit. It's just,
Strictly profit?
it's taxes. It's $17,000 a year. It's a lot of money.
Big numbers.
And just even thinking about, you know, maybe I'll probably have place rented, maybe 13 apartment at once. It never rents out completely. So it's a lot. You know, and the building, it's not like I can go and say, hey, this building is not worth what you guys have it assessed on. This building, it's worth what, or more than what's assessed for. So you can't really bring those taxes down in any way, shape, or form.
What, do you know the current assessment on the building?
I think it was like 200, I think it was, 200,000.
200?
And we're purchasing it for 400,000. So,
How long has the building been vacant?
it's not vacant. It's rented. There's office spaces. He probably has like 20 office spaces there. There's lawyers and architects there right now.
So in my mind, you know, if the fellow's renting the building and, and it hasn't been in any kind of hardship, I have a hard time saying, hey, go ahead and take it and do what you want with it on a couple rough sketches.
But here's the thing, those tenants, they're paying like $600 a month. It's coming out of pocket, so eventually, it's gonna be a problem.
Are they all on one floor?
No, they're different floors. Because one office may have like 3 different offices. They're renting one office space with like 3 different rooms in it and a bathroom. So there's bathrooms in every floor too.
And you have 5 of them rented?
Around, I'm taking a guess, because I did see the spreadsheet they have for, because they're selling it. So I saw it on there, and they have about six that are currently rented. And that's what they're renting for. I even saw one, I think, for like $200.
So hypothetically, you could almost gain 8 apartments if you did the top 2 floors, and you still would have room to rent the other as offices and still gain. And the one thing that I'm looking at for myself, is, once again, this is a historic building for downtown.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people who are from York, they like to keep some of our history that we have. So to cast it all out and change the whole thing into apartment buildings, some people are gonna be like, eh, but they may see it as half business, half apartments, and that may fly better. There is a building about a block and a half going west, and I lived in that apartment, and it reminds me of this building.
Mm-hmm.
And it is the upper levels are apartments, but they kept the main surface as business.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people appreciate that because, once again, it still has the history. You're still getting your apartments, which is gonna feed for what you need, but you're still keeping the accommodation of having business downtown. And that's what people wanna see. So just an idea for you to think about, in that aspect.
You're right, Stina. It is more consistent with the way we have our buildings downtown. The first floor is generally office space, and then you have apartments above.
And there are variation in buildings like that. You have some of them downtown that it's from your lawyers to counseling places to hair shops, barber shops. I mean, if you walk around downtown, you will see an array of our older buildings that have that. But when you look up and it's apartments on the upper floors, and it works for those people who own those buildings. And once again, you know, you're saying $1,200 for a two-bedroom apartment, depending how you break it up and your spacing and stuff, you probably could ask for more.
That's where, the 1,200, that's, you know, that's where we did our numbers on, you know, on, like I said, I'm pretty sure not all the time the building's gonna be completely rented out. So-
I just did some quick math and, you know, just going with $1,000 a unit, I mean, you're looking at $192,000 a year. And, you know, I hear what you're saying about $17,000 in taxes, but that's a lot of profit. And yes, you have to put money into it to make the money.
A lot of money,
I own an
around $1 million. That's a big mortgage.
$1 million is what you're saying?
Yeah.
I think you would-
Hold on, guys,
Sorry.
Yeah.
one at a time for the
So
stenographer, please.
I'm just bringing up the fact that 16 apartments is still making a lot of money if they're full. And I live in that area. That's why I know a lot of these buildings.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's just one of those things where the building right next to you, it was supposed to be luxury apartments, and they're struggling with apartments filling that place, I believe. They started off with a corner unit that was a studio that was $950 a month, and it was one room. So I'm telling you that
It's just, it has to do how you manage to. We own a lot of properties, and believe me, we don't have one empty property right now.
yeah, it's owned by a lot of people. We approved that one.
What was that?
The place right next to you that I was just explaining,
Mhm.
is on Duke and East Market, is owned by a big corporation.
Well, I'm not saying, I grew up in this neighborhood too. I went to the high school here. So I used to live on South Street. So I'm from around here. I know a lot of people. A lot of people call me. I think a percentage of this city probably has my number in Harrisburg. I get calls. I don't even pick up my phone anymore for rental properties. And they're all rented. I get calls daily from people trying to get apartments, houses, and I don't have any. They're rented, and they're long-term tenants I have. It's not like I'm moving tenants every month. I have properties that it's rent. I own a property on Jackson Street, close to the York College, that is rented for $600. I owned it for probably 6-7 years when rent was so cheap. They still haven't moved out. You know, I don't have time to go move her out and do the renovations and charge her $1,600. You know what I mean? It just doesn't, when I can just keep going on different projects, why move that person out and go in there and put $20,000-$30,000 on the interior, because every time a tenant, I bought the property at the auction, and she was the owner of the property. And she decided she wanted to stay there, and at the time that I rented it to her was like $600. She's still been in the property. You know, it all depends on the management of the properties too. You know, these big corporations, they take them to, let's say, I know there's a lot of rental agency around here. You know, how efficient are they renting out properties, considering me that people call me and they, you know, they talk to me, not an agency.
My big hangup is, you know, you look at this project, you look at this building, and, you know, if we have a beautiful plan here where we could imagine what this thing's gonna look like, let's do it. But, right now, with what we're seeing and the idea that, you know, we're not sure if your company's willing to come around and see if there's trash outside and evict the tenants who are leaving trash outside and stuff like that, you know, this is
Well, on a property,
critical property.
on a property like that with 16 apartments, you have to have a maintenance guy there, going there at least once a day.
I agree.
I'm not saying, when I spoke before, I'm talking residential properties. You know, where we had citations and stuff like that, just keeping up with the trash and, you know, because we can put on the lease that make sure you cut the grass, you know, but you know, grass in the summertime grows in 3 days. You gotta cut it every 3 days. You know, I own a couple of acres where I live, and I gotta mow my lawn at least every 3 days, and if it rains, probably 2 days. So that, you know, in a project like this, we'll have to have a maintenance guy at the property at least once a day. Especially where it's at, I'm pretty sure if there's trash around, the city's gonna get on it.
Now, there's gonna be a
Yeah.
lot of mad people at us. that
Exactly.
trash at that building.
Exactly,
A lot of mad people at us.
exactly. So I don't think it's something that we would just let sit around 16 apartments and not keep it up.
If you go to 16 apartments, I think we've had buildings before of that size that has it's unfortunate that the footprint of the building, I guess, is just about the same as the lot, right?
Yes.
Because for 16 apartments, I'm not sure what the latest thing is. There was some kind of ruckus not too long ago about a fellow, I think, who has Elite Property Management, wanted to be able to contract to have a dumpster emptied privately, and he said he'd continue to pay the city fee, you know, trash fee, for I don't know how many units. I think it might have been that one up in the avenues that when you're going up the hill,
Yeah,
the brick building.
yeah.
But you don't seem to have room there, from what I can tell, for a dumpster outside. And I live one door away from an 8-unit property, and I didn't mean to minimize when I said there, you know, there are landlord responsibilities like maintaining and upkeeping the building, but there are some things that are tenant responsibilities too. They can't expect the landlord to come in and empty their waste baskets in a trash bag and carry it out for them. Things that you'd think most grown people would know they're to do for themselves, and yet some don't seem to. And
Maybe giving them a fine, hold them responsible.
I'm sorry?
I'm saying maybe the city can find a way to hold them responsible too. That
Well,
would be really nice.
you know,
Fee for
No, I mean for residential, not this type of buildings. I know this,
Just gonna
yeah.
say for this type of
No.
building, they were saying about the size of the lot, the building sits right on it. So you wouldn't have room for a dumpster. Also, the other side thing that they usually do is they add the large trash cans, because you wouldn't be able to expect 16 people to keep their trash in their apartment until trash day. But you wouldn't even really have a place to sit the large size, trash cans for them to use.
Yeah, in my, there's just not enough information in this packet to justify the idea of taking a rented taxpaying building and changing it into anything other than what it currently is. You know, if there's a really solid engineered plan here, I say, okay, we take a look, but, in my head, I can't see it.
I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand.
My question, is there a back exit?
Yes.
And where is that in relationship to
There's a,
the
this,
building?
the building is sitting by itself. So if you're looking right in front of it,
Yes,
on the right-hand side,
on the right
it
hand.
goes out to the outside. We share that at,
Alley.
yeah.
So is there, and there's no door on the back side?
No, there's no door, only on the side.
Do you know how the building beside you handles their trash?
That's the big building that goes all the way down to Market Street.
Right,
I'm not sure how they handle it.
because I've lived in a big building before, and sometimes one option is that they have a trash chute and it drops to the basement, and then you
Yeah,
take it out through,
yeah, I was thinking about that
Parking
when
lot
he
of
said
space.
something, yeah.
but that would prevent you from having apartments in the basement if you were gonna take that path, or it would likely be a deterrent to having.
Well, when I was drawing, I did leave a lot of square footage out. Not a lot, but maybe like, say about 400 square foot out per floor after I included hallways and everything, and bathrooms and kitchen. So that, you know, it wasn't like tight 4 apartments that are only apartments there. You know what I mean? It wasn't like something tight, that I'm using like every square foot available.
I think that's what goes to Adam's comment, it's hard, it looks like you are using the drawings are good, but yeah, it does, are assuming that you are using every square
Yeah,
inch, so.
Well, I don't think it's our job to redesign your proposal or your plan. There, a lot of things have come to mind for me or the other members of the board. I mean, if you went from 4 apartments per floor per level to 3 and added maybe 150 feet to the 3 apartments, and then you'd have maybe 400 or so feet for like a utility laundry area for that floor. Because, and I know you didn't just start in this business, but I learned the hard way that I thought the worst thing in the world was to have an empty apartment. No, the worst thing in the world is to have a really lousy tenant.
yeah,
You may not have an apartment when you come back.
yeah.
And I have friends who have sold, you know, I guess when somebody asked, and then Andy was concerned about where it might go, the discussion when somebody asked what was your target clientele or something like that. Well, I mean, there are safe answers that wouldn't get you in any trouble. Like you could say, some of these apartment developments that we've had before us, they acknowledge that they are marketing it to empty nesters, you know, people in their maybe 50s, the kids are grown, two people in a large house, and they think, you know, we could enjoy life more if we didn't have so much time and work keeping up the house and the yard, so that they look for an apartment. And I've had friends who have sold beautiful homes, rented an apartment, and a year later I asked them, well, how do you like your apartment? They said, I loved my apartment, but getting into the parking place in the parking garage was a pain in the, so they moved. They moved for that reason. And they found an apartment that they liked about as much and where it was easy to get in and out. I mean, and keeping good tenants is easier if you make life reasonably pleasant for them. And, you know, you'd be renting to some people probably who gave up their home, these empty nesters, and I'll guarantee you they didn't truck, you know, 1 block or 1 mile to a laundromat. They're used to having, and I understood what you were getting at when you said some people let a washer overflow, and I don't know if there's any way to guarantee against that, but, you know, I mean, we have had rooming houses, well-run and well-appointed and well-cared for, where they provided washer and dryer, and I think maybe it's about time for me to go through the motion of asking if there is anyone in the audience, because I think we've, you know, there are times when we could talk for hours and we still end up with the same issues or the same problems. So I think I ought to ask if there's anyone in the audience who has any questions for this applicant or any comments on the application. Hearing none. Yes, I spoke too fast.
I need to swear
Do
in?
I know you? I think I do.
My name is Blanda Nace.
He does need to be sworn.
That's what I thought.
I'm sorry?
He does need to be sworn.
Will you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
He does. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Blanda Nace. It's Blanda Nace. And I serve as the Chief Opportunity Development Officer for the Bureau of Economic Development in the city of York. Also a resident of downtown. I actually was watching YouTube across the street. You are YouTube famous. But what I didn't hear, and I may have missed the question, I understand that this, I'll make this 2 parts. I apologize. First off, the city encourages more dense residential development. In our current housing crisis, we need more units. Recent housing studies have shown that there is an increased demand, more so at the ALICE, asset limited, income constrained but employed, what we call middle housing, but also at the low income housing, but also a little less so at the higher level rents, as we talk $1,200 a month or so. So the demand is there, and we encourage proper development. We are currently exploring some changes to some zoning overlays that would encourage more development like this in vacant properties or properties that have been vacant, which would allow up to 90 units per acre, size and parking considered. And I'm doing the math on this, 90 units per acre, which sounds like a lot, would be 7.2 for this 0.0 acre lot. It is small, but it is vertical. So that does have that going for it. Parking in the CBD is not a requirement, regardless of where you're at. So that argument should be neglected. But what I am curious about, and I did not hear the question, there are 6 or 8 maybe tenants that exist now, and what happens, or do you have a plan for their eviction, so to speak? Are their leases up, and is there a plan to relocate those businesses, and where then would they be located at? I hate to just see a business thrown out. The overlay that we're thinking about are for vacant buildings. And if you recall, directly across the street, maybe 48 North Duke is the new Courthouse Commons, which was occupied by WellSpan till they vacated, and then was converted into higher-end, nice, very nice apartments. So the precedence is there on vacant buildings. And I'm curious if there is a plan, or are we displacing existing businesses?
Thanks. You know, I was joking. I didn't recognize you because you were working on your phone. There were some 2 or 3 questions there. Could
Yeah.
you speak to them? I mean, was any consideration?
So on the lease side of it, they are on a month-to-month lease, and the owner has spoken to them. So, you know, I seen plenty of office spaces around, even right beside where the building they were at. They're renting a couple of offices there. You know, I'm pretty sure these are lawyers. They've been here. They've been around for a while. They know the city. You know, I don't have a plan where to move them, but they are on a month-to-month lease. So when you're on a month-to-month lease, you know that at some point you're gonna have to move out unless you come into a full agreement. I mean, I wish I had a plan for them, but, you know, they know the building is being sold, so. I think that was, right, okay.
Would you still go through with the purchase if you get denied tonight based on if the board thinks that 16 is too much for the building? Would you still go through with the purchase?
No.
And you have, because I saw a September 15th date in your contract.
Yeah, but
Did they push
that's the
that?
one that we submitted, but I missed this is my first time here. So I didn't know there was a Monday, so when we posted the door, I thought it was that date, and then missed my Monday meeting, so we redid the contract. This one's, I have it, I don't have it here with me, but we have a new contract that we close on Monday, if it goes through.
25th of September.
Yes.
So you did not discuss any other way to break that building down?
I mean, I would have to talk to my business partner as far as, you know, because that was the plan, and we did go into options where maybe 12 apartments and stuff like that. We talked about it, but it's pushing it because it's a, you know, it's a big mortgage. It's not, I'm not taking it out of pocket, and it's a big tax, you know, and there's a lot of bills that's gonna come with the apartments. You know, I'm thinking we're probably gonna take out probably like $8,000 a month just for bills and mortgage and tax and stuff.
Did you build a business plan yet with the?
Yes, yeah, we went over it. You know, we did the math on the mortgage, the bills, taxes, and what's profitable and whatnot, and we're not walking away with a lot at the 16 apartment. With taxes, mortgages, and bills, and the maintenance guy, we're around $8,000 a month. That's saying that the whole place is rented out, you know. Which I'm pretty sure it's not gonna be rented out fully all the time. It could, I'm not saying, I hope, but, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my two concerns stand. I'd love to see.
Would
at least some of the plan.
12 apartment and one floor for offices work? Would that work? Let's say the first floor? And then we can use some of that for utilities and stuff like that, and maybe 2 offices there on the first floor, you know, it's almost 3,500 square foot, you know?
I mean, my concern goes back to, I mean, as we mentioned before, they may be on a month-to-month lease, but this is a building that is currently occupied. It's currently paying its taxes. It's currently generating rent. And I just don't have the information in front of me right here that says this is obvious, this needs to happen.
Because if, like I said, let's say 12 apartments and we keep the first floor as an office, we can move them down to the first floor and be able to keep them around. You know, there's like 20, between the 3 floors, I think he has like 20 offices. I can, if you guys have time, I can look it on my phone. It's on the website where they're selling it. I think there's like 20 offices. So there's like 5 offices
The
per.
problem is you can't change your proposal.
Okay.
You're changing your proposal, and what
I'm
we're
just-
here to discuss is 16 units.
I will say, I mean, you could approve a lesser variance. I mean, you could approve a variance of,
Yeah, but as our chairman said, we're not here to redesign his design.
that's true. That's
The
true.
reason I said it is because you guys threw at 1.8 apartments and different options. That's why I said it.
And
know.
that was our discussion with you, was saying, was there any other options? Like I brought up, maybe more luxurious apartments. That's a nice section of York still. I mean, there's lawyers right down the street. I'm surprised we don't have lawyers here saying, I don't want 16 units sitting right next to me. I mean, there's a whole lawyer's row, and they live in those homes. So I'm surprised nobody's here, frankly.
Especially Joe Musso. I was sure he'd be here. Well, when I said I don't think we can take responsibility for totally redesigning, but as Andy indicated, we can approve a number for apartments that we feel, if we feel comfortable. And I think, you know, there's no absolute guarantee. These fellows do have some track record. They may not deserve a Nobel Prize for it, but they've stayed in business, and I think they're probably better equipped and better prepared to make something work in this building than some people might be. So if we approved a variance that from the density requirement, that was a number of apartments that we would feel closer to comfortable with, and then they can decide how they would make that work. And if they decide they couldn't, then, because there are some, it's a beautiful building, yes, but there are some limitations and issues. I mean, there are other buildings probably similar to this one that they may not have 20 or 30 parking spaces, but my word, at least they have plenty of room to keep a dumpster out back where it can be emptied from an alley. So,
I like that idea. I mean, if we can come to some agreement on a number that we do like, we also have to remember this stays with the property. Once they make the renovations, they can sell the building and it could be somebody else, so it may not, be the same owner even after it gets renovated, so.
I'm just taking the worst-case scenario here, and we take a look at the idea that putting $20,000 in upfront isn't worth it for this building. And then I say to myself, putting $20,000 upfront isn't worth it for this building, then what might happen to this building? And, you know, we don't know. All we have is hand-drawn pictures here. And that's not, you know.
No, I understand.
It's nothing against you. I mean, if I could get away with getting this to be residential and, you know, and build my plan on not spending $20,000, I'd probably try to do it too. I'm just saying I don't have enough information here.
Well, like I said, if it gets approved or whatever what decision you guys made, I am gonna need professional drawings.
Right.
I just threw it out because, you know, it's $20,000 for an architect that I was told that I didn't need
No,
by
no,
this,
don't,
you know, so it's like,
no, it's
and
unnecessary.
I've been in,
Hold on,
I've been in
hold
the
on,
field
hold on,
since.
one at a time. We can only do one at a time because the stenographer can't hear what you're
Okay.
saying. And
Yeah,
so
that's my fault.
she's taking down every word, so we
Okay.
can't talk over one another.
Okay,
Yeah, it's not necessary, but I mean, it sure would have been helpful.
yeah, I understand that.
But even the best architect can't architect out certain limitations or problems that I think we wouldn't be doing our job if we didn't recognize them and have them weigh into our decision. I think, as Bob Hollis would say, I think we can close this and go into deliberation, which I think we've already done by the spoonful for some time. And I don't have any firm, and Bob also started the deliberation usually with his review of the case, which ended up revealing his leaning on the case. And I don't have any strong, you know, I mean, I would consider something, but I think it would have to be a lower number.
I'm not willing to figure out what that number is on this board. I don't think it's our job to do that. So I'm sorry. I'm here to see this 16 apartments either approved or not approved, and that's what we're here for. I mean, he can reapply, he can have another plan drawn. I don't care too much about hand drawings. But maybe there's another plan that has 12 apartments, but it's not our job to decide that.
Again, Blandis said this kind of thing can work. What I don't see is a good plan for taking this from a tax-paying business building to a possibility of maybe something.
Can I say something? They're paying taxes right now, but it's out of pocket. It's not, I know what you're saying, like, the way that you're seeing it, because you go on the record, they're paying their taxes, but it's not coming out of profit, it's coming out of their pockets. So eventually, something's gonna happen. That's why they're selling it, because they can't keep it, can't keep up with it. And it's been on the market for 200 days or something like that. So, you know, and they have it also for rent. So they're trying to keep it rent to pay the bills, and they're trying to sell it too. So to see how much, you know, I know you see it as they're paying taxes, but how long are they gonna be paying for out of pocket? I wouldn't be paying for long.
You gotta do the drawings anyway. Bring them to us and let's make it fly.
Well, the drawback with that is we can reject fancier drawings just as easily as we can reject hand-drawn sketches that do give us an idea of what they propose to do. And yeah, it's not quite as impressive as professional, but you know, you can communicate just as well with plain language as you can with political obfuscation. So they know what they would have to work with. I'm going to move, in the case of application number 35-2023-Z-V, regarding the property at 25 North Duke Street. I am going to move that we approve a variance to convert office space into 12 apartments with the first floor, no, that's my motion. And I won't be upset when it's voted down, but I think they deserve to know, you know, instead of saying, spend money on drawings and this and that and the other thing, and then come back and we might approve it. I think I'm willing to say what I would approve if they come back. So I move that we approve the variance to convert office space into 12 apartments.
Second.
It's been moved by Williams, seconded by Bupp, to approve the variance, the dimensional variance to allow conversion of office space into 12 apartments. Calling for the vote, Ms. Jenkins?
Aye.
Jenkins, aye. Mr. Nugent?
Nay.
Nugent, nay. Mr. Holman?
Nay.
Holman, nay. Bupp?
Aye.
Bupp, aye. I'm sorry?
Aye.
Bupp, aye, and Williams, aye. So your variance, that variance is approved. You understand what, you know,
Can you explain it
You
to me
can
a little
go-
bit?
huh?
Can you explain it to me a little bit? What-
Well,
Explain it to me too.
you have a variance for 12 residential apartments in the building. And how you can make that work, I'd love to know a year from now that the property maintenance inspectors and the police, I'm not worried about the police being called every day. Not in this building, not with the people I know you would rent to, but the trash management. On that block, you know, heavens no.
Yeah, no, I understand.
And you need to, if you can do it yourselves, that's fine. I don't care if you do it yourselves or you hire a good management company. But if you, you know, kick it around with your partner and if you can come up with a plan that, like possibly moving 4 or 5 of the present office renters down to the first floor and doing apartments. You know, I'd be happy if you decided to maybe do 3 apartments per floor on the upper 3 floors and take the remaining space for like you know, the better you treat your tenants, the longer they'll stay, and you won't be interviewing new people and hoping for the best. And you know that's true.
So essentially, he's approved for 12 units and he's ready to rock and roll, right?
If this company wants to do that.
Yeah, you're approved for 12 if you can figure out how to make it work.
Would it be possible for offices in the first floor? Is that?
Basically, you can put 12 apartments in there somewhere, and you can figure it out, you can make them bigger, smaller, you know. I think it's a building that would benefit from having apartments in it,
I think it would.
Especially-
I honestly think.
especially more luxury apartments. Make them bigger, like our chairman's saying. Don't make them tiny little boxes.
I'm gonna caveat that on one thing. Okay, you've been approved for 12 apartments. I don't know, and you're gonna have to work with Monty to determine whether apartments combined with offices are permitted, okay? Because I don't know that is true, okay?
It's a commercial building, it probably is true.
Assuming that it's, but you're gonna have to work with Monty to figure that out, okay?
Okay.
So basically what was approved was a variance that that is a conversion, a multifamily dwelling conversion from a different use, okay? So you are permitted to convert that to a multifamily dwelling with up to 12 units, okay? Now, Monty and you can work to figure out what else might be able to be done in that building. But I don't wanna say that for sure here
No, I
tonight.
understand.
So you're
Yeah.
gonna have to work with him.
I understand.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I appreciate you guys' feedback, and I do understand everything you said and your concerns. I totally understand.
Hey, we're in
So,
your
you
corner.
know-
Hopefully you do a great job with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll talk to my partner and see, you know, what we can come up with. You know, if we're moving forward or not, and we'll go from there. I appreciate you guys' feedback, everything. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Good enough.
Need a break?
Yeah.
You want a break?
Not, I don't need one, but do you? Do you?
It's up to everybody.
How about a break, 5-minute break, anybody? I don't see any cheering section for it. So I guess we could roll.
We could use a Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, where are the samples? We were thinking,
There's no prizes.
Discussed that earlier.
Yeah.
Would have been nice.
Nice package.
ready?
Okay, yep. The next case is case number 38-2023-Z-V. The applicant is Chad Baker on behalf of Chick-fil-A Incorporated of 5200 Buffington Road, Atlanta, Georgia, 30349. The owner of the subject property is York Chick-Poo LLC of 101 West 55th Street, New York, 10019. The subject property is located at 922 Laux Road, which address is located in the EC Employment Center zoning district of the city of York. The applicant seeks a variance to increase the impervious surface with no change to the proposed use of the property, which is currently a restaurant with a drive-through. The application was reviewed by the planning staff of the city of York. The planning staff recommends approval of the requested variance. The case was heard by the City of York Planning Commission on September 11th, 2023. By way of unanimous vote, the Planning Commission recommended approval of the requested variance. The record before the board this evening consists of the application, cover sheet, 5 photos of the subject property, a site plan prepared by Bowler, and a handout that has been received, which contains 9 exhibits. The zoning hearing board application. Exhibit 2 is the deed to the subject property. Exhibit 3 is a short form lease. Exhibit 4 is existing conditions site plan. Exhibit 5 is the zoning hearing board decision from application 7-2010-Z, which was dated April 15th, 2010. Exhibit 6 is land development plans. Exhibit 7 is land development plan, existing conditions, clean copy. Exhibit 8 is existing conditions, photos, and Exhibit 9 is proposed conditions, zoning plan.
Okay, I don't remember that case. My mind is, would you, and I didn't get the exhibits,
Here we go.
oh. So, just start to describe what you.
Sure, it might be easy. This could be maybe a little more formal than you've done before. It's just easier for me to make sure I cover everything, go a little formal stuff, especially more formal than your last hearing. Good evening. My name is Charlie Sir. I'm an attorney with Stevens and Lee in Harrisburg, representing Chick-fil-A. As your solicitor said, Chick-fil-A operates an existing restaurant at 922 Laux Road. The property is about 1.36 acres in size, and it's owned by York Chick Poo LLC. The project that we have proposed is renovations, redesign of the existing drive-through facility. The relief we're looking for is dimensional in nature. It's a dimensional variance for impervious coverage. The EC has a maximum impervious coverage limitation of 80% on there. The property currently has impervious coverage at about 81.8%, slightly over that right now. And you're going to be seeing a bunch of numbers this evening, which are all going to be around those numbers, that area. They're going to be a little bit different each time. There was a prior zoning hearing board case back in 2010 before the restaurant was constructed, which allowed impervious coverage, I believe, at 74.5% on there. But when you added into the building and you looked at the definition of impervious coverage at the time, which did not include the building, it really allowed impervious coverage as we look at it today at 86.3%, which is higher than what is on the property right now. Our proposal that we have is looking at an impervious coverage of 83.6%. Again, you're gonna see some numbers that are in there. So within what was approved, the ordinance had changed, definition swapped around a little bit, but it's more than what's existing there currently right now. It amounts to about 1,000 square feet of extra impervious on the property. Again, as your solicitor said, we were before the zoning hearing board September 11th. No one showed up from the public. They recommended approval of that. We have witness Santiago Uribe is here, our professional engineer from Bowler. He's going to testify this evening about the site, the details, the operations, and the variance request. Gideon Lee, on my other side here, from JLL. He's in charge of, I call it the greater Chick-fil-A renovation projects, correct? They are going through this throughout the Northeast, renovating their stores, renovating their drive-throughs, updating, and JLL is part of the sort of the management of that for Chick-fil-A. So I'm not really having direct questions from him, but he is here to answer any questions if necessary. We do have packets I handed out. There's 9 exhibits there, as your solicitor said. We're going to be going through those. Some of those you've seen already, some of them you haven't, and we'll just go through them, hopefully in chronological order. So with that, Santiago, if you could just introduce yourself, please.
Yes, of course. So, as Charlie mentioned, my name is Santiago Uribe. I'm a professional engineer with Bowler out of the Philadelphia office.
What do you do there?
Sorry, could you spell your last name?
Yes, Uribe.
Uribe, thank you.
And what do you do at Bowler?
I'm an assistant project manager.
Okay, and what's that mean?
I assist our project manager handling a lot of his projects and support our development staff
Type of-
with design of the plans.
Okay, and what type of projects do you work on?
We work a lot with Gideon and the Chick-fil-A team, so a lot of retail, but we also delve into residential, industrial, really all over.
And Bowler's a full-service engineering firm, correct?
Full service site civil engineering firm.
And how many Chick-fil-A projects have you worked on recently?
We have about 14 active Chick-fil-A projects this year.
And then throughout Pennsylvania, New Jersey area?
We handle Pennsylvania only. We actually also have a Pittsburgh office that handles that area of Pennsylvania. So our office handles 14 like mid-eastern Pennsylvania
Okay, and are you a professional engineer in Pennsylvania?
as of 2021. Yes.
Great, so we're going to use you as an expert engineer with an emphasis in land development. You familiar with the site and surrounding area?
I am. Yes.
Are you familiar with the application that was filed this evening?
Yes.
Are you familiar with the provisions of the York City zoning ordinance, particularly as it relates to the EC district and impervious coverage?
I am, yes.
And are you familiar with the needs of Chick-fil-A in redeveloping the site, specifically the drive-through and the parking areas?
Yes,
And are you familiar with the operations of what will be the redeveloped site?
yes,
And are you authorized to speak on behalf of the applicant?
yes.
Okay, so you can turn what I've marked as exhibit number 1. Do you have your,
I do, yeah.
did you get that? Identify what that is?
This is our zoning hearing board appeal application.
And was this prepared either by you or underneath your direction and control?
That's right,
Right, I see the second page, there's a letter here signed by you, right?
correct.
Okay. Let's go to, I marked as exhibit number 2. Can you identify what that is?
Yes, this is the current deed of the property.
And this lists the owner as York Chick Poo LLC, correct?
That's correct.
Right. Let's go to, I marked as exhibit number 3. Can you identify what this is?
This is just a short form of the active lease.
So this is the lease between the owner and Chick-fil-A, right?
Correct,
The recorded copy.
correct.
Okay, and this indicates that, as everyone should have hoped, that Chick-fil-A does have the right to be on the property.
That's correct.
Okay. Let's go to, I marked as exhibit number 4. Identify what this is.
Yes, this is an Alta survey of the existing conditions of the property today.
Okay, and was this something that your office helped generate or asked to be generated?
That's correct. We have, we sub out our survey work to Control Point Associates, but yes, we work closely with them.
All right, so let's describe a little about the lot. Starting with the lot area, how big is it?
Yes, the lot is about just over an acre size.
And how would you describe it? Is it in a regular shape or irregular shapes?
It's not, it's a little bit irregular. It's not a perfect square. It has some kinks and bends as it relates to the neighboring properties.
Okay, and what's the main street that it's bordering?
It's, Lux Road is directly north of the subject property.
Okay, and are the neighboring property owners, are they identified on this plan?
Yes, they are. It might be a little easier to see on the aerial exhibit that's in front of you today. It might be a little far from some of you, but really to the west of the Chick-fil-A today is just a strip mall with a couple retail uses, and then to the east you have the existing KFC right off Fairlane Drive.
Okay. And currently what's happening, there's a Chick-fil-A restaurant on there with a drive-through, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and how's the current operations work, just focusing on the drive-through?
Sure.
Just walk a customer through the drive-through.
Yeah, absolutely. So you have a couple ways to access the parcel today. You can access the parcel off of Lux Road into a drive aisle that's really shared along the strip mall, along that portion of Lux Road. Farther into it, you can access the Chick-fil-A parking lot, which if you're coming from the north, you drive south and make a turn to the right to enter the drive-through. And you circle around the building, exit down further south, and then you continue to wrap around and exit out of Lux Road, or you can continue to make a right and exit out of a shared driveway out to the neighboring strip mall or the KFC, or directly out to the Fairlane Drive.
Specifically with the current drive-through, there appears to be one entrance lane to the drive-through, which then splits into 2 ordering portions, is that correct?
Correct. As it is today, it's single lane access. It splits into 2 for about 30 to 40 feet, and then it has to come back into a single lane to do the pickup window.
And that's the portion really that we're going to be changing with this application, correct?
That's correct. The intent is to expand the dual lane to, allow for more queuing capacity for the restaurant.
In other words, we're going to try to improve the efficiency of the drive-through.
That's correct.
Okay. And I see there's parking on here, on the site, correct?
That's correct.
And that is that going to be altered at all with the project?
Yes, we are altering the parking slightly.
We'll get to that with the site plan then. Okay. And do you know about when this store was constructed?
So the original land development plans are from around 2012, so I would just say shortly after.
2013 or so?
I don't know for sure, but it should be around those dates.
Okay. Let's go to, I marked as exhibit number 5. And to identify what this is.
Yeah, this is a decision of the zoning hearing board of the city of York
Okay.
for the original application of the restaurant.
So, were you involved in this decision?
I was not.
And neither was I. So we're just going to go by what the decision says. So I'd like you to turn to page 2 of that decision, and we're going to focus on paragraph 11 of that decision that's on there. That paragraph starts talking about approved variances and numbers for impervious coverage, correct?
That's correct.
Because ultimately, this decision did grant a dimensional variance for impervious coverage.
That's correct.
All right, so let's look at paragraph 11 here. The way it's written, I want to kind of block it out a little bit differently on here. Now, at the time when this was put in here, impervious coverage, as defined in the zoning ordinance, did not include the building. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So it was just the outside paved surface.
Correct.
The building was regulated separately.
Correct.
Okay. So if we look on here, what would you calculate as the, what we would call currently impervious surface on here, the numbers including, which would be the parking lot and the building? What would you come up with?
Correct. So just to clarify, the existing at the time, right, so before the Chick-fil-A, it was about 85% impervious without the building, and the addition of the building added another 11.9%.
So at that time, it was basically, as we look at it, almost entirely
97% impervious,
with solid surface.
solid surface.
Okay, so what was then being proposed?
So the proposal of the Chick-fil-A increased the pervious, or I guess minimize the impervious down to 74.5% non-building impervious, and then you added the 11.6% for the building,
And what do you come up with then, if you add those two?
resulting with an 86.1%, as we consider it today, impervious surface.
Okay, so this is what's odd. So while the variance granted in 2010 was for impervious coverage to be 74.5%, that's how impervious was defined.
Right.
But the overall, let's call it hard surface, was at what percentage?
It was 86.1%.
Okay. Let's go to, I've marked as exhibit number 6. And can you identify what this is?
Yes, so this is a copy of the recorded land development plan for the original Chick-fil-A construction.
Okay. Now, we're going to go to exhibit number 7. And can you identify what this is?
Yeah, so this is, all it is really just a cleaner copy of that same cover sheet for the recorded land development plans. It just highlights the variants that were requested at that time on the top right of the page.
All right, just so we're clear, it is just a clear copy of what was recorded. You had that in your office because you had CAD drawings, correct?
That's correct.
So, but otherwise, the first sheet is identical.
That's correct.
All right, so I'd like just to look off of exhibit number 7 because it's easier to read as we go through that. I see the outline block you mentioned in red in the upper right-hand part. And can you describe what's outlined in red there?
Yes, so that's the calculation at the time for the proposal of the restaurant as a new building for an 85.3% impervious,
Okay, and I see there's a little V listed off of that, correct?
which means basically requesting a variance from the 80% requirement.
I don't think that's correct. This is the land development plan, so this is stating that the variance was granted?
No, I think it's just saying that it's the increase from the requirement on this plan.
Okay, so 85. But 2 years earlier, they got a variance for what would actually amount to 86.1%.
That's correct.
Okay. So this is showing impervious as being constructed at what number, if this plan was built?
85.3.
Okay. Now, I also noticed there's a variance table a little bit below the general information table, and it says variance requested list, correct?
Correct.
All right. And I see variances on here, but this appears to be a decision from 2012, I believe. Not the 2000, so they must have been here a second time, right?
We could assume so, yes.
And if I look at those variances, I don't see impervious. It has to do with signage, I believe, and maybe one other item on here.
Correct.
Okay. So is it fair to say that when the original plan was approved and recorded, it was based upon the variance that was granted in 2010, which allowed up to 86.1% of total coverage?
Correct.
Right? Because at the time the plan was then approved, the ordinance had changed with the definition of impervious coverage, correct?
That's correct.
So when they referred to on this plan impervious coverage, it was referring to the building and the parking lot
That's correct.
on there, which is the current definition, right?
Correct.
Okay. Let's go to, I've marked as exhibit number 8. And I see a series of photos on here. Were these, do you know when these were taken? Or, let's start, do you know who took these?
Yeah, these were taken by our survey group when they went to do the latest Alta survey. shared in the previous exhibit.
All right, so were these done like earlier in the year? I don't see leaves in the tree, so like in the early
It was-
springtime?
It was actually, I think it was like late fall or early winter.
Okay. And let's just walk through, we have 4 photographs, starting with the top one. Please describe what you're looking at
Yeah.
with these views.
So the top photo is really the existing ordering canopy for the drive-through. And the one below it is really the patio area for the Chick-fil-A with the clearance bar, or the existing drive-through ordering station slightly to the right.
Okay, so if we flip the page on the upper photo,
The upper photo is the existing food pickup window.
and we have a single queue of cars
Single
going in.
queue exiting, correct.
And then the bottom
The
picture?
bottom picture is really from the main parking lot looking into the main entrance of the restaurant.
Okay. Let's go to mark now as exhibit number 8. Can you identify what this is?
You know where I'm-
Oh, sorry. Yes, number 9.
Yeah, so this is the submitted zoning plan that we're working today and here in front of you.
All right, so the packet has 11 by 17 copy, but this is the same as the full-size plan sheet that was submitted with the applications, correct?
That's correct.
All right. So let's describe the changes that you're doing to the drive-through that's on here.
Absolutely.
Why don't you walk a customer through the drive-through and what's different?
Yep, so as I was saying, really all the access points are remaining the same. What we're doing is as customers come in from Lux Road from the north and make a right into the drive-through, where there used to be 5 parking spaces, we're now trying to, getting rid of those and expanding the dual lane drive-through, really up to that point. From there, it really continues the same as it is today. There was limitations as to allowing us to do a full dual lane movement.
Let's just back off before you get there. How many order points do you have?
Right now, you can fit about 7 vehicles up to the ordering.
Okay, now how many order stations do you have underneath in this area?
Oh, there's 2 order stations.
2 order stations, okay.
And then the proposal also includes the light shaded rectangles on the plan depict new canopies, which are part of this proposal, really to help this existing restaurant be up to standards with the current Chick-fil-A. It just provides better cover for employees during the winter months with some heating elements, as well as when they're picking up their food for employees to walk out and be able to maybe service 2 vehicles at once.
So the changes going through, the order, the pickup, and then,
So as we get through the drive-through, again, there was no opportunity to increase the dual lane because of the property limitations. Couldn't take property from the neighboring strip mall there. But as you continue and exit out of the drive-through, we're proposing to basically have a bypass area, which will allow vehicles to, let's say one order's taking too long, it allows the Chick-fil-A staff to direct that vehicle over to the side while other vehicles can continue to, get their orders faster. We do allow space for those vehicles on the side to come back into the lane and make a safe maneuver out of the drive-through area. As part of what we're doing here, we are removing those 5 parking spaces that I started speaking about, and in terms of what we're doing today, we are looking to add back some of that parking elsewhere on the site. And those 4, we are looking to add back 4 spaces, and those are located basically off of the main. There's one landscape island there that's large enough to basically allow 2 more spaces. There's one near the main entrance of the Chick-fil-A. There's currently an existing sidewalk there that we're basically agreeing that can be removed and a parking space be placed on top of it. And then lastly, one off to the right side of the plan, on the plan east, near an additional trash enclosure that we're also looking to include on this as part of this development. Which brings the net parking to just a loss of 1 parking space.
and is that still adequate for the use, that parking?
That's correct.
Okay. So let's talk about why are you making changes to the drive-through? Or why are changes being proposed to the drive-through?
Yeah, like I said, it's really, Chick-fil-A's goal is to try and bring existing restaurants up to their current standards. If you were, Chick-fil-A were to come to a vacant site today, they will have a full dual lane drive-through sequence. So they're looking at existing stores and really finding ways to basically do the best we can to bring them up to that standard or close to it.
And again, this is for improving the efficiency of the drive-through, correct?
Correct.
And that improves the customer's experience, through the store. Okay. Now, let's look at impervious. What's the proposed impervious underneath this plan?
Yes, so we're proposing, it's the 83.6% impervious, which was, as mentioned before, equates to about 1,060 square feet
Okay.
of additional impervious.
Okay. And that number of 83.6, that's below what's shown on the approved land development plan, correct?
That's correct.
But do you know why that wasn't built at that high amount?
It could, so our existing number of the 81, or the 81.8 is based off of what was surveyed, so what was actually out there measured, visualized. So we're noting that increase from that. Why it was not the 85 that was on the proposed or the approved plan? Sometimes there's field changes during construction, and maybe they add more concrete or less than what they initially intended to for some, variety of reasons.
But those are the numbers we have, that we're working with right now,
That's
correct? So if I would kind of summarize some of the numbers we had here, so based on the document so far, is the proposed impervious coverage that we're proposing here within the maximum allowable impervious coverage approved by this board in 2010 and within the amount shown on the approved land development plans?
Yes, that's correct.
Now, we've asked for dimensional variance relief to go over the 80% for the zoning ordinance. I think we should just go through the zoning standards real quick that we're on here. Are you familiar with the variance standards that are set forth in the MPC and the zoning ordinance?
Yes, I am.
All right. So just kind of hit through those, just to give some testimony in each one of the standards that are there. First talks about unique physical conditions of the property. What would you say about that?
Yeah, the property, as I said, it's already developed. There's no room to really gain more property area at this point, and as we mentioned already, is it also has an irregular shape to it.
So that's sort of a notch coming in there also, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And of course, your neighbors are all developed too, which again, goes to the inability to expand out, correct? That's right, all right. Next part, really, the element comes in, unnecessary hardship that comes in here. Typically with the use variance, when you have to show that you can't do permitted use in the property. But we're asking for a dimensional variance here, which is really looking for a reasonable adjustment of the standard to allow a permitted use to go in. That's really what we're looking for now, is a standard for a dimensional variance, a reasonable adjustment to allow the permitted use to come in here. And we start looking at economic factors. And redevelopment is the key thing that we relook at. So this is a redevelopment of the existing site, correct?
That's correct.
And is the redevelopment here really necessary for the customer service, for the ongoing economic stability of this site?
That's exactly right.
Oh, okay, well, that's good. Now, what about adding, if you were gonna add more green space here? Like, say, you just put some green islands in the parking lot.
Sure.
Did you look at that?
Yeah, so absolutely. So we did study that, and I think really it's always a balance of, okay, what can we do to enhance and make that drive-through dual lane better, while maintaining the parking that's really necessary for the operator of the store to successfully manage his business.
And what was the result of that?
Basically the loss of the one parking space and our proposal for the drive-through.
Yeah, so if we would just add green islands in there, it just doesn't work, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, you got maintenance problems coming in
Yeah,
there,
so
and then,
I guess we also looked at potentially, we have the double parking areas. We looked at potentially creating like a small sliver down the middle of that to try and, gain that impervious area back. But understanding the drainage patterns of the site today, that wasn't a really feasible option. It created, freezing concerns, maintenance concerns, that, we really didn't see much benefit.
speaking of stormwater, any impact to stormwater control on this site by this increase in impervious coverage?
Yeah, so we are working with Monty as well as the city engineers to address the increase in stormwater. So basically, because we're within 500 and 2,000 square feet of additional impervious, we are going through their small stormwater application process with the city.
So that'll all be reviewed and handled, through the normal process of,
It'll be part of their building permit review, which will include the 2 new canopies as well as our civil plan set.
so it's fair to say that there would be no adverse effect on the neighbors due to stormwater being generated with the increased impervious, correct?
That's correct.
All right. Other standards, we're almost ready to go through here. The next, it kind of goes to it was really necessary for the reasonable use of the property. Again, we're redeveloping the drive-through facility, correct?
That's correct.
And this really helps to kind of keep it economically viable, right?
Correct.
All right. And is it not being self-created? Now, obviously, we are proposing this plan here, but the hardship that you talked about, which is the lot size and the inability to expand, that's naturally occurring, correct?
That's correct.
All right. And the other standards would go to, start talking about the neighbors and the public. Will this have any impact on the character of the neighborhood?
No, it shouldn't.
The neighborhood's all basically commercial all in front anyway, right?
Correct.
And will it be detrimental to the public welfare?
No.
And finally, is you try to get the least or the minimum variance possible going through here. Did you try to work to minimize the amount of requested relief?
Yes,
All right.
as I mentioned a little bit ago.
So we're adding really, depending what your number looked at, we're either below what was approved or we're increasing about 2% of what's there now, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And that is almost a de minimis amount.
Yep.
All right. Anything else you want to add?
No,
Okay.
I think I'm.
That goes through, I think, our presentation that we have. So we are open up to you guys if you have any questions.
I have no questions.
I don't think I have any questions.
Our former chairman, Michael, would have some, but he's not here.
I can throw one out.
You
One
can?
quick question.
Yes.
I thought I'd get no questions, but that's-
And it was a beautiful presentation, it truly was. And how many parking spaces are you required to have on this property? And you may have said it and I might have missed it.
No, we didn't say it. The
Or-
required from the current zoning code is 43.
43.
yeah,
And
it's
you
on
have-
it's on the plan.
You have, yeah, I mean, it's on the parking requirements on there, but yeah, the requirement is 43. There's 54 there today. We're proposing 53.
Thank you.
I'm just curious, can you estimate what percentage of their volume is drive-through pickup versus come in and sit down and order and eat?
Sure.
Art, I can speak to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, why don't you introduce
Why
yourself,
don't you
Gideon?
swear me in?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Gideon Lee with JLL on behalf of Chick-fil-A. So typically we, out of respect for y'all, but we don't share the, I guess their statistics, if you will. But I will say, since COVID, the sales channels have shifted heavily towards drive-through and third-party pickup. So it's heavily drive-through focused, but at the same time, there's still quite a bit of dining. Chuck, the operator owner here, he definitely cares about his customers, whether it's drive-through or dining. So, but mostly it's drive-through, third-party, and that's kind of what Chick-fil-A, our program, that's kind of what we're moving towards, is to support that sales channel and make sure that the operators have tools in place to support that. And a lot of that is, relieving congestion just from a police standpoint and traffic congestion standpoint, getting as much queue in our drive-through and out the finish line, if you will, and not just, to the benefit of the operator. It's, I think it benefits the entire community and customer, so.
I've seen that line, it will.
Exactly.
I've seen when they've opened and the lines are unbelievable. And-
Right, so the bypass
And
and
the
the,
police presence and all that.
exactly. So we're dealing with that, I have 140 projects across the Northeast, and,
Unbelievable.
yeah, that's a
Didn't,
question for Whitney.
The one that opened up in Harrisburg about a week or couple weeks ago, it has no indoor dining. So it really depends where you are. Obviously, this one has more. I've done other fast food restaurants before. I think I did the McDonald's across the street many years ago. McDonald's was somewhere 60% or so. They gave out more information, but each restaurant chain is different on how they handle that. But
now, you work for the company yeah.
Correct, we're contracted through Chick-fil-A, so I work with JLL, which is a development company.
Didn't you start, when I asked a question about what percentage didn't you start your answer by saying that you weren't really able to answer the question?
With specific percentages,
Yeah, but then you spent about 4 minutes not answering the question. That's,
he's not an attorney, don't worry.
Right,
Don't worry,
right.
he's not an attorney.
you have a future in politics, young man.
Where's the lawyer?
or as a lawyer, or as a lawyer in politics.
I'm an engineer by trade, so I usually like to speak in numbers, but in this scenario, unfortunately, I cannot share that information at this time. But thank you for the question.
There you go. They always thank you for the question that they didn't answer,
And
don't
you're
they?
always messing with people, so.
Well, it was a great presentation. It answered every question that I think we probably had. Nobody has any. Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll motion to approve a variance to increase the impervious surface.
And could you just restate the percentage that you want there?
83.6%.
To 83.6. Is that all we need?
Do we need to say the address or anything like that?
No, I'm fine. Yeah,
We don't need that?
no.
I second.
Okay, it's been in case number 38-2023-Z-V. It's been moved by Mr. Nugent and seconded by Ms. Jenkins to approve the variance to increase the impervious surface. Calling for the vote, Ms. Jenkins.
Aye.
Jenkins, aye. Mr. Nugent.
Aye.
Nugent, aye. Mr. Holman. Holman, aye. Ms. Bupp.
Aye.
Bupp, aye. And Williams, aye.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks. Motion to adjourn so she can go off.
I'm sorry?
Just motion to adjourn so she can go off the record.
Yes, without objection, we stand adjourned.